So without much more ado, I would like to ask President Cohon to come up to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, let me be probably the last one or the eighth one or something like that to say welcome to Carnegie Mellon. And for those of you not from Pittsburgh, welcome to our great city. We're very excited for this week. This has been a wonderful few days for Pittsburgh, and I hope the next 2 days will be even better. The attention that we're getting feels very good right now, and I think it's well-deserved. I want to thank the Atlantic Council for partnering with us in this way. I'm very proud of the volume that was produced and this symposium that unfortunately I can only come to now. I wish I could have been there last night longer than I was and this morning, but I understand it's gone very well. Many people have made this possible, and I thank them all, but I want to single out Kyron Skinner, who conceived of this, used her tremendous talents and force of will to make sure it happened, and realized the product beautifully. And I thank Kyron for doing this and once again making a great contribution to this university. I'm going to be as brief as I can and still convey what I want to, because this is a distinguished panel and I look forward to being part of it. Before I get really to the topic at hand, which is education in the context of global economic development, I want to spend a little bit on the issue of Pittsburgh. It's highly relevant to the topic, so I don't feel bad about that. But the question on everybody's lips, or most people's lips, since President Obama made his announcement a few weeks ago that the G20 would be here, was, why Pittsburgh? Famously in the Pittsburgh press, reported over and over again, was the titters and laughing in the White House press room when Pittsburgh was announced. The kind of treatment, by the way, Pittsburghers are completely used to and have no problem with, which is part of the story of Pittsburgh. But in any event, it's a great question, why Pittsburgh? And the answer is even better and highly relevant to the topic of this panel. The short version is, at the core to the answer, is the sector now known as the EDS and MEDS, education and medicine, the universities and the health system here in Pittsburgh, and in particular Carnegie Mellon University, University of Pittsburgh, and the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. These three institutions together have become the major force for employment in this region and the major source of new jobs, both in terms of company creation and attracting companies and creating jobs. And it's a great story. One of the factoids about Pittsburgh that surprises many people is that we're actually fifth in America in terms of the number of PhDs per 1,000 people in the population. Who would have thought? Pittsburgh, of all places. And it's because of these universities, both the people we attract and the people we educate. Carnegie Mellon in particular embraced Pittsburgh's economic development as our strategic priority. When we developed a strategic plan when I first came in '97, we had 5 priorities. One of those was internationalization, which I'll come back to in a moment, and the other was Pittsburgh and its economic and cultural and artistic development. And we've done a lot. Our own sponsor research base has more than doubled in that time, and that creates very attractive jobs for the city. We changed the way we did technology transfer to emphasize company creation in Pittsburgh and to do it easier, more easily and more quickly, so the burden on faculty wouldn't be so great. We've spun off more than 230 companies out of this university. We've worked to attract companies, and in something which is probably unique for a private university, we partnered with the state of Pennsylvania, built a building on our campus, at the edge of campus, which now has in it Intel, Apple, Google, and a Microsoft research lab, the only building in the world that could boast such a collection. And they don't fight either, so far as I know. And recently, Disney opened up their first ever research center right across the street from the building I just mentioned, only because that building is full. And now we're trying to build another one. And we've done much of this in collaboration, close collaboration with the University of Pittsburgh and UPMC. We work together very closely and in many other ways. We are a major part of the answer by Pittsburgh and a major demonstration of how crucial education and educational institutions are for economic development. We are the answer as to why Pittsburgh was able to make the transformation that it did. Now, the other priority I mentioned was internationalization, which goes right to the topic of today's panel. And I just want to touch on a couple of things in the context of what Carnegie Mellon is doing, or has done, but that connects directly to the themes in the papers that you'll find in the book, and I'm sure we'll be talking about in a moment. So we adopted internationalization as a strategic priority, and in doing so, we basically had two things in mind. One was the preparation of our students, wherever they are, but especially in Pittsburgh, to be successful in a globally connected world. And the other was being more international as a university, including going to other places and opening campuses and programs. With regard to the story here on this campus, it's a very mixed bag, and one that I hope we'll explore here on the panel, certainly with Susan Polanski on it. I'm sure we will in part, and probably with Pradeep as well, and maybe some of our visitors. On the one hand, we've seen a very significant rise in the number of international courses and offerings we have here in Pittsburgh on our campus here. And we've seen a very strong response to this by our student body and a demand for it. And I'm thinking about, in particular, all the programs that Kyron has been involved in, our international relations program now. I forgot what we call it now. Global politics. Thank you. Which is different from global societies. And someday maybe someone will explain that to me, but in any event, students are really responding to that. And whereas I read in Susan's paper, now the percentage is 8% nationally, 8.6% of American undergraduates take a foreign language during college, amazingly low. Here at Carnegie Mellon, it's about half, 8.6% versus 50% here at Carnegie Mellon. Fantastic stuff. And and we're very proud of our modern languages department, which is much more than just learning a language. Students really get immersed in cultural issues, and diversity of their classes is spectacular. That's all great. On the other hand, we did a survey of our undergraduate students, and it was amazing to me, actually shocking, how many of them really don't care about the rest of the world and know very little about it and don't want to be troubled about it. I want to be an engineer. Don't bother me with all this stuff. It's kind of like this incredible disconnect. I'd say more than half of our undergraduates, I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot, too many, have not embraced internationalization at all. On the same campus where we've got all of this stuff going on in terms of international relations, global politics, and modern language study. I hope the panel will explain this to me. As I said, the other part of this was going to the world. Now, a decade after we started doing that, we have 16 degree programs in 12 different countries around the world. And as you heard, a campus in Qatar where we do undergraduate education, the only place outside of Pittsburgh where we do. All the rest are master's and PhD programs. I was particularly taken by some of the issues raised in the paper by Russell Berman, where he talked about the asymmetry of international education. What he meant by that was international students, non-U.S. students, come to American institutions either here or if there's a branch like us where they live, and they focus on technical details, engineering or science, business maybe, and they don't really get exposed to the humanities and social sciences the way undergraduates in this country do. where at the same time, American students enrolled in American universities, if they have an international experience, it tends to be not the kind of educational experience we would necessarily hope. And they get kind of a narrow view of what international experiences are. That's the asymmetry he's talking about. He also talked about the tension, unavoidable tension, between the modernization of nations with their traditional values. And education is central in all of that. And he talked about the very poor state of educational systems in many, most, maybe all developing countries. I'm not going to respond to all of those, but let me tell you about one anecdote related to our program in Qatar, which gets really in a way to all of these. Early on in our time there, which would have been about 6 years ago, the Sheikha Moza, who is the emir's second wife and the one who is the visionary and leader of the educational programs in Qatar, asked me to come and see her. I had an audience. And she did specifically to say to me the following. We're very impressed at how culturally sensitive Carnegie Mellon is. You've been wonderful about being respectful of our values here and making a point of not imposing your values on us. She then went on to say, but the reason we invited you here is we want your values. She said something to me which was stunning. She said, and I'm just quoting her, so don't jump on me, in my nation, and she went on to say in Arab nations, corruption is too much a part of the way we do things. It's endemic in our system. You stand for honesty, integrity. Your reputation is all about that. We need to implant that into the future leaders of our country. The other thing she said was, you stand for excellence. And we in my country are too often willing to settle for second best, what is mediocre. These are the two things we want from you. So yes, we appreciate your cultural sensitivity, continue to be so, but don't forget why you're here. It's not just about teaching the technical details of computer science, which is one of the things we teach. It's about imparting those values as well. One other example, we started programs, master's and PhD programs in Portugal about 3 years ago, and Pradeep Khosla has been leading that effort. I was just there last week for a board meeting for the body that oversees this. What was stunning to me was how much the culture of the universities in Portugal has started to change because of our involvement with them, which we would say is a victory and is success, and the Portuguese leadership would as well. But this notion of cultural change and the transformation of educational institutions and the role of U.S. research universities in that is a very important one, and one that we're experiencing. Finally, Thomas Spiller's paper talks about new technology for education. I just want everybody to know, when you're president of the university, which is hosting the conference, you've got the prerogative to do this kind of thing. This is a flat commercial, the only reason I'm bringing it up. I want you to know about our open learning program here, where we have created more than a dozen fully contained college-level courses available on the internet. We're doing this in an experimental way, having spent a lot of money given to us by the Hewlett Foundation. This is of a quality with potential for impact because it's got built-in assessment and feedback and interaction with the student at a level that simply has not been seen before. And with the support of the Gates Foundation, the Lumina Foundation, and more from Hewlett, we expect to be rolling this out in a very big way to American community colleges. But we see this as all on the way to providing really high quality, self-contained, technology-delivered college-level education to the world. That's our goal, and it's happening here.